We've also got a really special guest, the director of photography and a mate of mine since we've been 12 from Australia, who flew out to this, Adam Hart. Before we get into the Q&A, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background on how the film came about. I was fortunate enough to have been a student of Clark Terry's, and I used to play drums in his band years ago. And the way the whole idea for the story first came about was that I'd moved back to Australia after playing with Clark for many years, and an Australian TV program wanted to do a short story about myself and Clark. Unfortunately, that fell through, but it planted the seed for the idea of making a film about Clark Terry, because we started to think about that nobody had actually done it yet. And I was surfing with Ad one day at our local beach, and I was telling him how this story had fallen through, and Ad just said, "Mate, I reckon we could just do it ourselves." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And we hadn't made a film before, and so we paddled in and started making a plan and saving up some money and studying how to make a documentary. And so we bought some plane tickets, bought a camera, and then started shooting with Clark. We shot with Clark for about a year, and all historical stuff, lots of interviews about his life, and lots of interviews with other jazz musicians about Clark's life. And something that would come up all the time is Clark's the greatest trumpet player and flugelhornist of all time, and he's one of the greatest teachers of all time. But we had the footage to back him up as a trumpet player, but we didn't have the footage to show people him as a teacher. So Justin would always be studying with Clark while we would be doing these interviews at his house. So we decided to ask Justin if he'd let us film him, which is kind of risky because we hadn't made a movie before. I'll let Just film.
So I guess I was in New York living in my apartment, and Al came to me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing on Clark, and was wondering if you wouldn't mind if me and Adam followed you around with a camera and a microphone." And really, my thought was, here's my buddy, he's a great drummer, and a good surfer, apparently. And he definitely surfs a lot, and now he's sitting here doing a film. So I figured, yeah, go ahead, you can film me, nobody will see it, you know. That's why I didn't have any real qualms with it, but, you know, but also I kind of did tell him, I said, I don't know what you're going to have to film. I'm sitting here in my apartment with my dog, and not a whole lot's going on. But when we did start rolling, when he did start filming, it was remarkable the things that happened within that window of time that he was around, and I'm very glad that I was able to be a part of it. So thank you, Hicks.
No worries. And so part of us learning how to make a documentary was learning how to fund a documentary. And the way we did it, we saved up some money the first round and thought, hey, that'll get us through to the end. But it got us through 3 months. It's so expensive to make. And so what we had to do was we shoot for 3 months, go flat broke, then we just part ways. We both work for 3 months, pool our money, shoot for 3 months, go broke, part ways. and we did this for 2.5 years nearly. And also we were able to have a Kickstarter campaign that was successful to get us through a large portion of the shooting. And another thing that we ended up doing a lot was we save up enough money to buy equipment, and then we'd have to sell the equipment again to get plane tickets to go to do shoots. And so what kept happening is we sold our lights, I think, 3 times, and we'd buy them back 3 times. But there's these late night sessions that you saw in the movie that, you know, it was all about improvising and trying to work out how to do it, to do this without the equipment. And so yeah, there's you know, Ad can fill you in on how we captured those late night sessions.
For me, they were the best times. Those sessions between Justin and Clark, shooting such, you know, intimate moments between the two of them, and what would happen. And I learned very quickly that, you know, time's very essential. And shooting a documentary, you need to be on your game 24/7, and there's no rest, you know. And we'd all be asleep on the couch. You've seen a shot of Justin sleeping on the couch there at Clark's place, and that couch is about as long as here to the piano, and all 3 of us would sleep on it, including Candy. So we'd all be crashed out on we've been shooting all day, you know. Justin's been in there getting his lessons, and we've been there, and you know, Gwen will be cooking up a feed, and we'll all have a nice dinner together, and then we'll go to bed. And what kept on happening was at 2, 3 a.m., 4, I'd get a little tap on the shoulder or something and wake up, and Al's like, "Hey, Ad, you know, Justin's just walked into Clark's and they're on, you know, they're on fire right now." And it's like, "Okay, cool, sweet." So we get in there. So after a couple of times that happening, and just realising that we just needed to capture absolutely everything, because everything that was happening between those two were just the most amazing moments, and we didn't want to miss anything. So by the, you know, second time of that happening, I was like, okay, well, in order to not waste any time, I'm going to sleep with my camera equipment already set up, and I'd fall asleep cradling my camera gear. And then when Al would give me a little tap on the head or shoulder, we'd just be straight into it with not a moment of time wasted. And a lot of those sessions and a lot of instances like that were what you see on the screen just there.
You couldn't hire a camera crew to do that. It has to be a good mate. Has anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
What did you shoot with?
So we shot primarily with the Canon DSLRs, 7 and 5Ds, and towards the end the C300, just for a couple of interviews and things. But yeah, it was with our budget that we originally, you know, we didn't plan too well because we didn't know how to plan to make a documentary. So, you know, whatever money we did have, you know, we kind of went with what we could get. So.
You couldn't do that 10 years ago.
No.
Well, that's the beauty of these cameras as well, and one of the reasons we did choose those as well is because, you know, we're living with Clark and his family, and we're living with Justin and his family. So, you know, one of the things is, okay, we want to be as, you know, discreet as we possibly can, because we're living with these families, and to come in with, you know, like you said, 10 years ago, the big camera rigs and all the gear, it would have just been an eyesore and kind of off-putting, you know. So having those cameras that was small and compact, and, you know, the quality's tremendous on those cameras as well. So that was why we chose to shoot with them.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The photography was so superb, and you had no experience before then. Could you tell us a little bit about your process, how you learned how to get those perfect shots that we saw? It was like masterful.
Well, originally, like since I was young, I've been travelling around the world and surfing, and one thing that I picked up along the way was photography. So I had a bit of a, you know, I would say a bit of a background shooting photography, you know, shooting the places I was visiting and the people that I was meeting. So I guess one could say I had an eye for that. But along the way, we had so much great help from a lot of people. You know, the way to, you know, if you don't know how to do something, the best way to figure out how to do everything is to ask. You know, you ask people. And our second unit director of photography is a guy called Rory Anderson from Australia, and he's in the film production industry. So when we had, you know, significant shoots going on that we thought that we needed to get, you know, a few more angles on it, like the sessions at Clark's place between Justin and Clark. And he taught us so many valuable. He was our hired gun. You know, Rory was amazing for us, and we learned a lot through him as well, and other people that we come into contact with. So we did have a lot of help along the way, and ask those questions and get the answers and go for it.
Yes, mate.
What point does Quincy Jones get involved? Did that change, like funding and the scale of what you're doing once he started getting involved in it?
So Quincy literally walked into the film as you see it on the screen. We didn't know Quincy, actually all of us didn't know Quincy, and we were down shooting at Clark's like we had been for dozens of times. Justin would let us know that he's going down to study with Clark, so we'd book our tickets and go down and shoot. And the day before that day that he turned up, we got a call. Gwen got a call, and she told us that Snoop Dogg and Quincy Jones were coming down to do a recording with Clark. Now that Clark's health was back and back up to scratch, so we were like, oh jeez, okay, I wonder where that fits in the whole grand scheme of things. But Snoop Dogg was playing basketball with his son that morning that he was meant to get the flight, and sprained his ankle and didn't get on the flight. But Quincy had already left and was en route down to Clark's place. So instead of it being this huge kind of, not ordeal, but a production and with bodyguards and all that stuff, it ended up just being Quincy Jones just walking in and seeing his teacher. And, you know, to get 20 minutes with Quincy Jones is an amazing thing. And we had 8 hours with Quincy there. And we were worried that he wouldn't let us film at first. But we just kind of hid around, and it was cool, and just felt it out, and ended up chatting with him at the end of the day, and he really liked what we were doing, and then we just stayed on the periphery and let it happen, let it unfold, and then we approached Quincy and asked if he wanted to be a producer towards the end of the shooting, and thank God he said yes. You know, and it was one of those great moments where another student of Clark's had joined the team and helped us finish.